Well, welcome to the Young Man's Guide to Life podcast, where we talk about misconceptions about adulthood. We talk about mistakes we've made and hopefully help you learn from them. And we also, our goal is to empower young adults to live the best life that they can possibly live. And we do that by encouraging them to take risks. And today we have a unique podcast where we are taking quite a risk. I myself am taking quite a risk. My name is Andrew, and I am the host of the Young Man's Guide to Life podcast. And today we have a really special episode because I have invited three very close friends of mine to the set to do a podcast conversation with. And today's specific conversation is on the topic of race. And so, like I said, this is risky, just having a white guy host a conversation about race. And I get that, and we get that, especially in the times that we're in. But we thought the most healthy thing we could possibly do is sit at a table, drink coffee, and talk as friends. And so, as you can see, I've invited three friends of mine. We have been friends for, most of us, for 20 plus years. And I mean, collectively, there's like 80 years of friendship here, which is insane to think about because we're not that old. We all grew up together. We all went to high school together. We all played baseball together. I went to elementary school, grade 1 with Shawn, so I've known him for that long and played baseball with Cameron since I was 7. And Jahrann since junior high have been friends, and they together have all been friends too. So this is a really unique opportunity to have a real conversation about the topic of race, and our hope is that it is helpful to you. And it models what it actually talks about to have real conversations about real issues as friends in the context of relationship. I feel like a problem that a lot of us have and that we see in culture and in media is that it's easy to disembody ideas and to talk about ideas as though there's not humans behind them. And I think the most healthy way to have a real conversation is to think of ideas as embodied and humanize them. And so that's kind of what we're hoping to do today. Now, I wanted to preface with a couple of things that I thought was important to preface before we jump into our conversation, because we're going to talk freely as friends would talk. A couple things I want you guys to know is obviously there's 2 black guys here and 2 white guys. So that's important to note. There's two, if you didn't notice.
They might have noticed.
Yeah. There's 2 guys here who profess to follow Jesus and 2 guys who are not religious types of people. So it's not just a religious conversation. It's not that. It's really friendship-based. Like I said, we all went to the same high school, so we grew up in the same area. Now, something unique about the Meadowville area is that it blends economics, and they're intentional about that. So a lot of us grew up similar economically, but we grew up going to the same high school, so you can understand similar area. We all understand our area and our neighborhood well. And I did want to note that there's obviously no female representation. And not because this is only for men, but because I was mostly friends with men. You guys know this. I didn't date all that much or have a lot of female friends. I had a couple female friends, but most of my friends were men. And so I think it's just, I don't know, it's not because we're trying to cut anybody out or anything. It's just, that's the way it is. And the title of the podcast is Young Man's Guide to Life, not because it's only for men, but it's usually 2 men, me and Eric, the other host, talking about stuff. So that's why it's called that. But we're not trying to be sexist or hold anybody back from a platform. I think it's important to state that. Now, we're obviously living in the middle of the COVID season, and we're also living in the middle of a unique time in America and in Canada, I guess globally, actually, in regards to race relations. And if you're seeing this podcast the week it's released, then you understand what we're talking about. If not, go back to the beginning of June in your YouTube timeline, and you'll understand what we're talking about. And so something else you need to know about this group of guys is that we play a lot of poker together. And we've been doing that for a long time. Less now because we have families, but still whenever we can. And the first thing I wanted to see if we could figure out is who at this table has won the most amount of poker games. Because I feel like we're all pretty balanced. So
Lately.
Yeah. Who won most recently? Did I win most recently? No.
That was me.
Jahrann, you did online. You did that comeback where you were basically dead, and I thought, Jahran's out of this.
He was insulting me the whole game, actually.
The whole game I was insulting you.
Yeah, so
you should have been gone. I think I was playing foolish. I should have won it, but whatever.
Yeah, people were being nice to you, and I was like, what are we doing? Let's cut this guy out.
I think that's when I kicked it on. When you made that one comment, it's like, Jahrann, are you going to step in and do something here? And
yeah, you were like
then
the
I just didn't lose after that.
Low man on the totem pole and worked your way all the way back up to getting the win.
You can't bite my tongue sometimes. And I think at one point, I was in the chip lead, and it was probably me, just my ego exploding.
Was I playing that game?
Yeah, you played.
Are you sure you were in the chip lead?
I was at one point.
Are you sure
At one
about
point,
that?
for sure I was. Yeah, for sure I was at one point. It happened somewhere in the middle where no one remembers, and it doesn't really matter. How many times do you go up with chip lead in the middle of the game and then you're so quickly out? That's
I
not
know.
scenario.
Then you get picked on.
What's
So
that?
Then you get picked on. If you have the most chips,
Well,
everyone's
yeah.
coming after you.
People attack you. So I think there's pretty even win ratio across this table.
I'd still say it's Shawn.
I
Shawn
think it's
Wolk, you think?
Cam.
Yeah, I think it's Shawn.
I think it's Cam, but I don't know.
I'm gonna say our buddy who's not here, Matt DeMarco. I still think it's Matt DeMarco.
Well, yeah.
but-
Yeah.
You're being too nice to Matt, I think.
Yeah,
You're being too nice to
I
Matt.
definitely am, but I definitely think it's him. He's a snake on the poker table.
He just seems so like sometimes he plays like he's like, I'm not really paying attention or caring. And then you're like, how do you beat me?
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
that money has no value.
Right?
Yeah.
He
Be
always
nice.
plays like that.
White privilege. Matt has white privilege. Money has no value. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about stuff openly and say stuff. So that's for you. Before we do that, I want to introduce you to my friends because I didn't tell you their names yet. And then I want to give them a chance to tell you just a little bit about their background. To my left is Cameron McEwen. To his left is Shawn Wolk, and to his left is Jahrann Farquharson. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, who you are. Just give us a quick, brief background, Cam.
I guess you heard my name's Cameron McEwen. I grew up in Mississauga, Ontario. I have a mom. I'm mixed, black and white. I have a dad who is black, my mom who is white. I pretty much grew up in the same area as these guys. I would say I'm middle class.
Your parents are immigrants, right?
Sorry?
Your parents are
Sorry,
immigrants?
yes, that's right. So my parents came from England. My mom actually moved to Canada when she was like 18, and she had to visa my dad in. It was just crazy. It's like the stories you hear. They came to Canada on like $1,000 and had $1,000 in their bank account, which is nuts. So I give it up to them. I have 3 brothers. A grandmother still who's alive. I love her to death. Miss her. Wish I could see her. I got a son. He's mixed race with Portuguese. He's speaking Portuguese now, 2 languages, which is crazy. But
Dang.
that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, I did French class with you, so
I ain't
you
speaking 2 languages.
doesn't run in your blood. Me neither.
Just saying, I ain't speaking
yeah.
2 languages.
Yeah.
I love him though. I love
Yeah,
him.
that's good. Yeah, Shawn, tell us about yourself.
My name's Shawn Wolk. I also grew up in Mississauga in the Meadowville area with these guys. Went to high school with them. I currently live in Milton now, but still frequent Mississauga quite often as most of my family and friends are here. We grew up playing sports together, and that's my passion still to this day. Keeping active physically and, watching and playing sports recreationally. I work at the University of Toronto, and I grew up in a middle-class family. My parents were born here, but my grandparents on both sides immigrated here from Europe. And I have one brother who's younger than me. And yeah.
What do you do at the University of Toronto again?
I'm an engineer at the University of Toronto. I don't teach, but I do building operations and maintenance on the equipment, stuff
Is
like
it
that.
power engineer? Is that what the definition?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
a power engineer.
Cool. And Cam, what do you do for work? So people know.
I work for Coca-Cola.
What do you do?
That's all I'm gonna say.
That's all right. Coca-Cola's doing pretty well. Yeah. All right. Jahrann, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, Jahrann Farquharson. Lived in Meadowville whole life. Background, my parents are mixed. Well, my mom's white, my dad's black. My dad's Jamaican, though he was born in Britain. My mom's British, and they both came over here. Grandparents are Irish, so Irish, British, Jamaican human cocktail that I am. And yeah, I'm the 5th of 8 kids. Well, 5th of my dad's 8. 2nd of my mom's 5, if that makes sense to you guys.
Yeah.
That does make sense to me.
And yeah, I got 2 sons, married. My wife I met in grade 8 and
That's wild.
or started dating her in grade 8, so been together now for, oh gosh,
A long time.
That's
15 years.
crazy when I
15
think
years.
about it. Yeah.
A long time.
more than half my life at this point. So yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. Do you
Oh, and I
think-
work at Mother Parker's Tea and Coffee as an inventory analyst.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How old are your sons?
7 and they just had birthdays like a couple days ago, so 7 and 4.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys for being here. We've talked a little bit before coming on the set, and we're going to continue that conversation. The point of this, again, the conversation is a conversation surrounding the topic of race and as just stuff that's going on in the media and the news and just all over the world, in all communities it's affecting it. But we're speaking from a Canadian perspective, and not just a Canadian perspective, but a Mississauga, Meadowville perspective. I know I live in Milton, you live in Milton, Cam's out in Etobicoke, and you're still in Meadowville. And so just whoever's watching this, wherever you're watching this from, we are from a specific context. And so you have to understand the conversation we're going to have is based in an experience in a particular place, and we're not speaking on behalf of I guess people from all sorts of different experiences and backgrounds and different places that they live. We're speaking from ours. But what we think is important is having that conversation. We have a lot of friends and family on social media and in the media who are just seeing things from all different backgrounds. And I think it's important to talk about it from our own and have a real honest and authentic conversation about it, because I think that's something that we value. So as we jump into the conversation, I guess the first thing I wanted to ask you guys, and just speak maybe openly and freely, you don't have to speak comprehensively about it, but just first thoughts on what is your take on this current cultural moment that we're all experiencing right now in regards to the race conversation? What's your take on it? What you're seeing, what you're experiencing media, what's your feelings about it? Just initial reaction to it.
I'd say it's overdue, long time coming kind of thing for me. I mean, Cam and I have seen bits of it in our lives, like some of these experiences, nowhere near something extreme, but just little things. And we've seen, I think we could all say we've all seen the need for a change here for a very long time, and I think seems like there's something to this one that's never happened before. It seems a lot of people are really fired up to see that change finally put in place.
I got mixed feelings. In it needs to happen, and I kind of am scrambling to find out who needs the change, if that makes sense to you. That's my mixed feelings. With Instagram, you see all these people who are posting all these things about what's going on, and then there's just people who post every day and then just go quiet. So to me, it's do you not see what's going on, or do you not care what's going on? You know what I mean? What are your thoughts? Because I know you see what's going on, but you've done nothing about it. You know what I mean? So I got a lot of mixed feelings towards people too, to be honest with you. So
I would just say, when Andrew was asking that question, what Jahrann said was the first thing that came to my mind, where I feel this is something that's long overdue. This is an issue that, shouldn't take cell phone videos or, stuff to make us want to have this change. We need to be aware that this is a long, ongoing issue, and it happens even if we don't see it on camera or on the news. That happens every day all over the world. And that, for me, it's hard to comprehend other people feeling that way, how they could have so much hate in their heart towards another human being, as these two are some of my closest friends. And, it's time that we as people rally around and come together and try to make some significant change any way that you can help. Whether that be through discussion, donation, whatever, time, even listening. But clearly there needs to be change, and it needs to be drastic. And that's the way I feel at this point.
So, big conversation that everyone's having right now is around the topic of systemic racism. Now, I speak publicly enough to know that I can say something and mean something by it, and it doesn't matter what I mean. What matters is what everyone else interprets as the meaning, right? And so, just so people are clear, if you can give just a little bit of this, when I hear systemic racism, this is what I'm picturing it meaning. That way, if we're having the conversation, people know this is what you're talking about, because you may not even be talking about the same thing. So when I say systemic racism, what is the first thing you're hearing, or what are you thinking that means, or how are you interpreting that?
For me, so if we're taking racism as this huge issue, systemic racism to me is just kind of a portion of it. It's if you specifically were racist, that's not systematically oppressing my life. That's not affecting me. It's I just wouldn't have to talk to you anymore.
Right.
But the things where you're impacting someone's livelihood, things where you have the potential to really ruin someone's life with your racism, which is why police is such a big area, because that's where you can really ruin someone's life with it. but also it's embedded in the history as well. This is a deep-rooted issue of racism. So in that sense, the structure of our economy is kind of set up around this deep-rooted racism that's embedded in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's at least how I would characterize it in my mind. I haven't given enough thought to it to make it more articulate.
That's all right. That's perfect. But does anybody else have any other things to add to that?
No. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I would just say when I think of systemic racism, it's along the lines of what Jahrann said, but it's, like you said, deep-rooted and from the very start, from, I've seen videos and stuff like that where, people aren't given the same opportunities. When I hear systemic racism, I think someone isn't given an equal opportunity, whether that be the school and the education they get, the community centers they get, the support groups they get, the benefits they get, the employment opportunities they get. All those things to me are systemic racism because it puts a black person a step behind and a white person or of another race a step ahead. And as those steps ahead and steps behind grow bigger and bigger, that's when systemic racism grows larger and larger. And it's hard to catch up. So I think it's from the beginning, starting at education and opportunities and all of that lead to systemic racism and biases that are unfair and don't provide equal opportunity for all areas of life.
So you were saying, because you said it, I think we all agreed when we talked off camera, we said like racism exists in most cultures, right? Most human cultures across human history, right? Racism and systemic racism presumably exists in a similar way, or at least in its own way across cultures and across human history. But it's unique to the conversation we're having now because it's unique to the conversation that the West is having, which is a specific systemic racism, right? And that's the divide between black and white. You mentioned white privilege. You mentioned basically the white step ahead and the black step back, and that's the gap we're talking about. That's the systemic racism we're referring to. And so when we're talking about systemic racism, we're talking about white privilege and black oppression, I guess. But one of the conversations we were having earlier or off camera, and I'm interested in going there with you guys, is Cameron, you asked Jahrann something.
Oh, yeah.
And what was it that you asked him?
Thanks for that.
Because it's interesting. We're going to say black, white. We're going to say racism. We're going to say white privilege. What did you ask Jahrann?
I asked Jahrann, do you feel black?
And I know why you asked.
Of course not. This is a hard conversation because I don't want to take off the topic of what's going on, and I know what's going on is bad, but
I know you asked because of how many times you've also been asked as well.
But this is the problem. This is because I feel so powerful about what's going on right now, and I remember when I was a kid, and I've told Andrew this. My dad, it was just me and my dad in the car. We're driving. And he goes, yo, Cameron, look at this cop behind us. Like, I'm just in the car with my son, and he's checking the computer to see if he's got a stolen, or all this type of stuff. And he's teaching me this as a young age. So I know what a lot of black people have gone through, but then it's just like, sometimes it's like, I feel like people, I don't know, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to say anything wrong, but people judge us in a way that, like, we're not black enough, if that makes sense to you.
Like, based on behavior, like how you act.
I guess this is,
and like I know, like because you're asking, do I feel more black or white? It's that same issue we were talking about, where it's like black's not a color anymore.
No.
It's
the way you act.
It's a personality. It's the way you walk, talk, dress, all these things. It's not a color. It's like, because wouldn't have to ask someone if you feel white.
No.
You're white. No matter what you're doing, you're always white. No matter what we're doing, we're always mixed. And if you're black, like, it doesn't matter what you're actually doing, your skin color is not an issue. But it's an identity question. It's like, do I feel like I identify more with my black family or like my, black community, or with a white community and my white family? So for me, it's been equal representation
100%.
My whole life. It's like, your parents are diverse right there.
Like, my mom's been down for the cause since day one. You know what I mean? Like, that's all I can say. Like, since day one. Like I said, she had to visa my dad in. They went through things in England. I remember hearing a story where one time they went to go rent an apartment. And this is back in my dad's day. You know what I mean? at least 40 years ago, and I can't believe this stuff still happens today, where they try to go rent an apartment, and they walk in, my dad and my mom, and because he's black, they say no. She goes back the next day by herself. Yeah, we got plenty of rooms. You know what I mean? And so it's like she's been down for the cause since day one. So it's like I'm down for the cause too, but it's just like it hurts sometimes. And it's not just like for me, it's that's an identity thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes sense to you, like because I am black. You know what I mean? And I don't know, it's just a weird topic, and that's why I feel like it's. But we've had to go through things. You know what I mean? Like we've gone. You know, and don't get me wrong, I have lived a very privileged life. Like my mom and my dad have given me things that.
Oh, both of us. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's like I'm not even trying to compare what people have to go through because I know what they're going through, and that's why I'm down for the cause. Is I know what you're going through, and I want to change too. Because people look at if you talk a certain way, you're this. If you dress a certain way, you're this. You know what I mean? And what's crazy to me is I could be standing beside a white person. You know what I mean? Or me and Shawn could be standing beside each other, and he could be more we'll say ghetto, and people will go, yo, he's more black than you. You know what I mean? And to me, that's like, this is why I have the crisis now. It's like, yo, then so what am I? Do you know what I mean? It's like, so am I a white person then? You know what I mean? And then here's what's crazy is then I'll go talk to someone else. You know what I mean? And they'll be like, yo, we'll be talking about something, and they'll say something along the lines that's racist, and I'll take offense to it. Don't worry, you're white. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so I don't want to choose because I like, yo, my father and my mother, I love them both the same, and I look at them both the same, but it's like, why are you guys making me choose?
Do you feel like this is even a hard conversation for you to feel comfortable in because of that? Like, yeah. Am I going to get in trouble for speaking on behalf of the black community because sometimes people don't even consider me that, or like is that part of it, or what? For me personally, yeah. I don't know about you, but for me,
I don't have that at all.
No, see,
I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I'm not speaking on behalf of a community at all.
Right.
I can say what I think. I can say what I feel. I think everyone has that ability.
I agree with you.
So
that makes sense. Yeah.
You like it, keep it. You don't, then
Maybe to just kind of make it clear for everyone, I invited you guys because you're my black friend. So at least for the sake of this conversation, right? At least for the sake of this conversation, like Shawn's a white friend. Yeah. I think it's very clear I'm a white guy, and I invited you guys because not only like are you black, yeah, and your family is black, but I think you can speak on behalf of the black community, or at least the black experience, because it is different, right? The whole point of systemic racism, or at least one of the ideas around it, is that Shawn and I have been treated differently and had different opportunities and different privileges because we don't appear any amount black, right? And you guys would have had different experiences because just the color of your skin has led people to treat you differently, or at least that's what we're supposing is true. Maybe we can go there and ask the question, is that true? Have there been circumstances where you have experienced or felt that you are mistreated or treated differently simply because of the color of your skin or what people would perceive you as? Have you guys had experiences like that?
Well, like we said in the boardroom, I've been there with Cam
100%.
on 2 occasions where that's been
100%.
present, that I believe. And Cam can get into it because he was the guy that was there. But it was me and Cam, and Cam was the only black person there. And I mean, I don't know if it's racist, but I think it's I don't know if he was treated differently. And I'll let Cam talk about it.
This is what we're talking about. No, you could talk about it. I'll say this. You can get into the top. It doesn't matter. I just want to say, a lot of racism stays in the gray. A lot of racism stays in the gray where they can hide it and they don't have to fully come out with it. You know what I mean? Where it's like, so if because it happens, there's so many things that happen to me so often that I forget. I forgot his situation.
Right.
Totally. You know what I mean? But the fact that he remembers it means it's got to be something. But like they'll say, or it's like, they'll say this joke, or they'll be like, it's like they'll treat you differently and you don't know why. But then it's when you think it's because of that, you'll go try and explain that to someone else and they don't believe you. No. I know that person. He's not racist. Or they'll say something racist. I can't be racist. I know a black person. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, that doesn't make you not racist. That just, so it's just, but Yeah, it happens to me 100%.
Well,
so.
yeah. So, do you want me to say this?
You can say that.
No.
You can say the story.
Yeah, tell the story.
So,
Yeah,
tell the
like,
story.
when we were teenagers, I remember riding bikes home from our friend Ian's house, and me and Cam, it was broad daylight, and we were up to no trouble at all. We were just riding back to his house on bikes, and a police officer pulled us over, and we were just waiting at a light, and he asked for our IDs and asked for our names and what we were up to, and was saying, there's been break-and enters in the area, and it was just strange because, like I said, it's broad daylight. There's other people around, and I feel if it wasn't due to Cam being black, it was due to us just being teenagers and him being under the assumption that we're up to no good. Mm-hmm. And then the other situation that I was with when I thought this one was definitely more racist, or at least judging of Cam's skin color, was when we were going to your wedding in Indiana, Andrew, and we had a car full of friends, and 3 of us were white, and then there was Cam, and the border officer, asked us, a few questions to all of the white folk, me, Ian, and Matt, just, very basic questions like where we're from and where we're going, and then he went to the back of the car and saw Cam, and you could tell his whole tone had changed, and he basically just looked at Cam and go, well, like, where are you from? Like,
whole background. He wanted him a whole
He
background.
wanted his whole background, and it was like he was treated differently. Yeah, and that's based on his skin color. If he was white, then he would have been treated as we were treated. So that's just a very basic example of, judgment solely based on his skin color. Cam had done nothing different than any of us. He was in the same vehicle as us.
Right.
And this border officer went out of his way to make sure to interrogate or ask Cam in a more abrasive way, at the very minimum, of what he was doing with us.
Right,
let's
right.
say.
Have you? What about you? You have any experience like that that you can recall?
I think I'm fortunate enough. I haven't had a whole lot of experience, especially with police officers.
Not even driving?
No.
Bro, I can't believe that.
Fortunately, I know. Yeah,
that's shocking. Because
but like the type of racism that I could say I've experienced is always like social. I don't know if that's the term, but like a social type of racism where it's like, well, you've been like when we go up north camping and whatever. You get to a certain part of
Ontario, yeah,
where it's all white,
yeah,
and you just want to walk into Tim Hortons and grab a coffee, but everyone's staring at you, and it's not like it's not impacting my life, so it's not like oppressing me in that sense. It's just it's very uncomfortable. Or probably the worst one was when I went to pick up a couch we have now at our place. I went to pick it up from Georgetown, and I'm sitting in the truck. I don't know if it's because I was with Ashley and she's a white woman, and that just adds fire to the flame or what it is. But 100%. I'm sitting in the car. There's a guy standing right by his garage, and he's just staring at me, like burning through the glass, staring at me. And then he's like signaling to his buddies in the garage, and like 4 white guys just come and stand outside on their driveway, staring at me in this car. I'm just like, I think we need to go. Like, get this couch.
And this is like months ago, right?
Yeah,
you picked up this couch?
Probably a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is not a long time ago. And Georgetown, for those who don't know,
not far.
Georgetown is 12 minutes from here, right? Like we're not talking far. Now, if you live around here, you know, right? Like there's not a lot of not white people who live in Georgetown, right? And that's something that Georgetown's, so going to Georgetown, you're going. But the fact that we like to say, oh, we're in Canada, it's not here, it doesn't exist, it's not real, and then it's like, actually, no, 12 minutes away from the biggest city in Canada, and you're experiencing that, and whether or not your perception is reality, like. Maybe that had nothing to do with it.
Could be.
Unlikely, but maybe it didn't. But the fact that you feel that, I think, says something about it. And I was thinking about this for you guys, like, whether or not you've experienced it overtly, you still have the question in the back of your mind all the time. Am I being treated like this because of this, right?
Every single time.
And as a white person with privilege, I've never had that question. I've never thought, oh, I didn't get that job because I'm white. Or, oh, that teacher spoke to me like that because I'm white, or
sorry. Keep going.
Yeah.
I was going
to. Well, no, I think I go ahead, because that's the point I wanted to make, and I think that says something about your experience. Still, there's still something there. The fact that you're experiencing it's not made up, and it does impact you.
See, this is what I was going to go to about experience too. As I grew up in Mississauga, almost every young person plays hockey. Almost every young person plays hockey. So I played hockey growing up, all this type of stuff. I still play hockey, men's league. And what's crazy to me is when someone who said I'll go, hold up, let me explain the backstory. So I remember something happened on the ice, and my team's going nuts, and there's this white guy on the ice. He goes, "Why are you acting like?" And I'm not gonna say the word because I want to get into a conversation about with you in a second.
Yeah, go for it.
Why are you acting like an N-bomb? But he added the ER. I don't ever drop the. If you know me, I don't drop the N-bomb. That's just me. That's the way I grew up. That's the way my father taught me. That's the way I believe. So I go, "Are you serious? Like, are you kidding me? Why are you all this type of stuff? All this type of stuff." Every person on the ice comes, blocks me off, and goes, no, he didn't say it. He didn't say it. And then a person has the audacity to come up to me, "Dude, my wife is black. I don't think he said it." If your wife is black, dude, you think we just come out to say like, "Yo, this is just fun. I want to come do this for fun."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what doesn't make sense to me. And I always wanted to ask you, and I'm gonna ask you now, what's your take on the M-bomb? And this is why, and this is also a personal thing about being mixed. Also, is why I don't drop it as well, because I also feel that I'm white. So I think no white people.
Like, you don't know if you have the pass.
I think no white person should drop the M-bomb at all. And that's what cheeses me, is there's people who give. I'm not going to get into it. Go. What do you think about the M-bomb?
So personally, I never use it. Mostly because I can't recall a conversation I've had where for some reason I needed to use that word and I couldn't communicate without using it. That doesn't make. I could say anything but that. So it's never been necessary. Like, okay, if I'm singing some music or singing some song, something that's in there, maybe it slips out of my mouth. But I mean, whether or not other people should use it, oh boy.
I'm not getting into that. I just think
no,
but I'm not getting into other people who use it. But I just think, see, this is my point. There's some people who are going to totally disagree with me because they totally lived a different life. And don't get me wrong, there's probably white people out there who have grown up in a ghetto somewhere and have lived probably a less privileged life than me, or is looking at me like you're an idiot or something like that. You know what I mean? This is just the way I grew up and the way I believe and the way my father taught me. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm trying to preach it. But I think there's also people who get passes. Like, we grew up in Meadowville, right? So we grow up, most of us in Meadowville, I don't want to speak on a lot of people. Some people in Meadowville grew up a lot of privileged life, right? And somehow they'll have black friends, and their black friends will be like, "Okay, yeah, you can go drop the M-bomb." And then, but it's not about if they're dropping it with their friends. Because I remember a time where I was the only black dude here, and you were here with this, and it's one of your boys, and he drops the M-bomb to his white boys, just dropping it like no tomorrow. So he's now giving the pass to his boys to be able to drop it, and no black people around. And I'm sitting there, I'm just cheesed, like I don't even know what to do. I don't know.
Where was this?
Shoeless Joe's or something like that.
At Jackass.
Yeah.
And then talking about basketball, right?
Yeah, and then
that was very bad.
Don't worry. He's boys. People go. He's boys with this person. So it's like, but then it's like, okay, so then you're just giving it a pass, and now everyone's using it freely.
Right.
When you know what I mean, the history of it, I think, is a word that you shouldn't be using.
And the way that was said that time was just very, very, and just awful.
Happens to me all the time though.
Yeah.
But other people feel about it differently.
Well, I mean, it's awful in any context, but it was just hurtful and just bad to hear. You could just tell the whole people were shocked.
Well, so let's go into the conversation then about, and not to transition off of that specific wording or language, but the conversation about cancel culture versus free speech, because I'm sitting here. Like, I don't know about you guys. You guys, we were talking earlier. You guys were fine with the conversation, but doing it on a set like this is what was freaking you out. I'm comfortable with this. I'm uncomfortable having the conversation. With my wife, I'm comfortable, but I feel like, what am I allowed to say? What am I not asking? I'm not talking hate speech. I'm just talking like the conversation about race. I think what holds a lot of white people and black people back is a fear about just having the conversation and having the freedom to talk about it openly and process it because of cancel culture. Because, if you said that, this means you're that, and so therefore you can't talk anymore. You don't have a voice here, kind of thing. And that's made me feel like, where's the space for us to just talk about it openly and freely and process it? Because the only way I think I can learn is by actually talking and listening and processing. The only way, if you know my wife too, you'll have to ask her, the only way that I've actually come to realize anything is if I've already repeated it back to her, right? Because I'm a verbal processor and it drives her nuts, right? She's like, just listen. I'm like, no, but I need to be able to like work it out, and I got to use free speech to do that. And if I don't have free speech, or at least I feel like there's landmines everywhere, then where is the space to figure it out and work it out?
So I was watching the news, I don't know, within the last couple of days, and there was a black politician on there, and then they had a comedian on there, and these are their views, and I agreed with them, but obviously everyone's views are different, and they were of the thought that as if humans make mistakes. So if I'm trying to express my point of view or express my opinions and thoughts, but it's in good intentions and trying to support and help, then everyone may have a situation in life where they have said something wrong. And it's not like or it was interpreted wrong, but at least by having the discussion, you're moving in the right direction towards change. I could make a mistake, Cam could make a mistake or misword something or whatever, and they said they will forgive you for that. It's the people that'll just stand back and by not hearing your voice or listening or whatever or contributing to the conversation that are not progressing towards the change that needs to be happening. And I thought that was a very fair point, because all of us in life may say the wrong thing or may interpret it the wrong way, but at least if you're having the discussion and contributing to it, you're showing an effort that you're willing to change or you're willing to contribute to positive change in society and everything. And that was just what I took from what they said. I don't know what everyone else feels like.
I made so many mistakes in my life, dude. I agree. See, I agree with you, and that's why I think it's conversation is needed. It's really needed, because you I don't know. It's people, you need to get into other people's shoes. You know what I mean? It's like some people it's hard. I don't know. Some people I don't think deserve second chances, because it's like they're just a straight out. There's no changing their mind. They're just straight out racist, and their ignorance is bliss to them, and there's no changing their mind. But you definitely need conversation, I think. I definitely think.
Yeah, but like I said, it was with good intentions, right? Like if you have the good intention, like you're saying, if you can tell if someone's not willing to listen, it'd be blatantly racism, right?
That's my point. Yeah.
But if you're going into the conversation trying to provide change with good intention, you may offend someone with what you said, but that could happen any day in any conversation on any topic. So are you just going to be willing to sit back and listen, or not even listen, just avoid conversation because you're afraid that you may offend someone or you may be offended from what they say? And then at least you can clarify as friends or as a group what you actually meant by it, and if they interpreted it wrong. That can be any conversation in life. You can have that happen.
And I think it would be better, 'cause I think we know that the silence is probably contributing to the problem a lot as well, that the fact that no one's talking about it at all. It's better that you be willing to speak, and even if something comes out that's interpreted wrong, or maybe you'll get challenged on it. Or it is wrong. Right. And then you'll be challenged on it, and then maybe you can learn from that and see how, when you said that, how that impacted someone or how it made them feel, and this is your opportunity to now reframe an idea.
Totally agree.
Whether it came out subconsciously or consciously.
But you can't come out and say racism doesn't exist, even if you have good intentions. You have to know by now racism exists. You know what I mean? I guess you could have good intentions, but your topic could still be ridiculous. You know what I mean? So it's like.
But do you want that person silently believing that?
But it doesn't matter what to me it doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't matter, even if they come out with it. I don't know. I have good intentions, but I don't know.
That's if we're defining racism as I don't go out and beat up black people.
You know what I mean?
Okay, that's not it. But there could
But
be,
I believe this, and no. Okay. I don't know. I think it's hard. It's a very hard topic. It's a very hard topic.
Oh, it's huge.
I was reading a text called White Fragility, and the whole idea with the book is how white people are so fragile in talking about race. And I don't want to know if you guys have experience trying to talk about race with a white person. The idea with it is first of all, their immediate response is, no, I'm not racist, right? Yeah. Come on, don't, because you're calling me something I don't want to be typecast as. You're basically, you're calling out my moral character, and and I'm going to defend myself. It's either that, or it's some sort of avoidance to maintain some level of power or whatever. But have you guys experienced trying to have conversations with white people about race? And
I've never had a conversation with a white person about race.
It'd
be too general.
Yeah.
And I've talked to some people who are white, and they're willing to have the conversation. They're totally willing to go into it. Other people, it's it's not for them, or it might feel like when we're having this conversation, I'm going to start to feel like I'm guilty of something. There's just kind of the way it's received. Like
most of them are guilty. That's why I'm gonna be honest. Most of them are guilty of saying something racist, and then when they come out when they have to take ownership of it, it's like I don't want to admit it. Like, yo, I
think it's a huge fear for white people to be called racist. I think that is a
yeah. No, I'm sitting here sweating. I'm literally sitting here sweating because I'm going to be called racist after this. It's terrifying. Why do you think that is?
Because it's because to hate on someone else just for playing out for no other reason, just for the color of skin, is, to me, that's absurd. Because as I said, I grew up in Meadowvale.
Yeah.
And I've had friends that have been every different color. Like, I'm talking about, I've had a full group of Asian friends come over to my house. I've had a full group of black friends come over to my house. I've had a full group of white friends come over to my house. You know what I mean? So, it's multicultural. So it's like, just to hate on different people for one thing is like, you're just I don't know.
Well, that's if they are racist, right? But the
it's
conversation right now is that every white person is racist.
No.
Not in the overt sense. That the whole conversation about systemic racism is, whether you like it or not, white people experience the privilege of white supremacy, right? Whatever it is, quote unquote or not quote unquote, however you say it,
you're contributing to the problem.
We contribute to it, so there is racism, and that's why white people are so afraid to be called racist. But the conversation right now is every white person is, or at least contributes to the system of racism, right? And so, if you are racist straight up, you should be afraid because you're a bad dude, right?
So do black people. Like, black people there's black people or mixed people who are silent right now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And don't believe what is going on right now. You know what I mean? So it's like if everyone, this is the point. Everyone has to speak up about this. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who you are. Everyone should be speaking up about this. It's like. So I don't but the problem is I don't want to say so to black people. I shouldn't have said that. I don't know if it's the truth. If it's not the truth, I apologize about that, people. I don't know how many people are going to be watching this.
You're so politically correct.
You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. I just don't want to.
You're fine.
I don't want to anger no one. But I'm just saying.
Dude, that's on them. It's not on you.
What was I going to go on to? But the thing is racism. Like, it hides in between the gray. So I've always said this. So most of the time, what happens is someone will come out with, like, I've had this with friends. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not gonna say no names. Or someone will come out say something racist, and then I'm around a bunch of white friends, and then I'll go, yo, that's racist. And another person will go, no, he didn't say it like that, or he didn't mean it like that, or it's like this, and then it's just gone. You know what I mean? So it's just a bunch of gray area where it never comes out. So
yeah, and even like I said, watching the news, like, obviously no one wants to be labeled a racist, especially if you're not a racist. You know, at your core, if you're a racist, and it's a terrible thing to be a racist. So first off, you don't want to offend other people, and you don't want to be offended. But you look, going back to Cam's gray area thing, I think it's just some people in certain areas of life, or who they're surrounded with, whether it be more people or less people with that same belief, have more confidence in being vocal about it. So I was watching the news, and I've never thought about it this way, but they said, a lot of racism is still happening in the southern United States. And the guy that was on the news, that was the guest, said it's not that racism is more prevalent in the South. It's just that they don't give they don't give a crap about saying it to your face. Mm-hmm. Whereas the people in the North are just as racist,
so live it,
but they hide it.
Yeah,
right.
They hide it better
because it's politically correct culture.
It's politically
the South
correct, or they don't have
100%.
the backing of these same individuals, like Jahrann said, with the group of 4 guys in Georgetown.
Right.
Whereas if he was by himself, maybe he would have acted totally different. But people feel bigger and stronger and more powerful with a bigger group behind them. Mm-hmm. So I would agree with the gray area point, and that's just the way I feel about it.
So is this for everyone? Is this the longest and most honest conversation you've had with multiple races about racism?
No, I've gone into hours of conversation with
with white guys too.
No.
That's what I'm saying. With
white guys,
Because white guys don't actually talk about it much at all, right? Because it's like if it's a thing, right? Then there is like you get this echo chamber of like, I'm not a racist. I'm okay. Well, it's not. Then it's not a thing. Let's move on, right? I mean, I know I'm super generalizing, but whatever. But black people talk about it all the time, just with. But you only feel comfortable and safe about talking about it with each other,
100%,
right? You know what I mean?
100%.
So is this the longest conversation you've had about it with white people?
It might be, yeah. But I mean, like, it's not like I wait till the white people leave to have these conversations with Cam. It's just.
It's usually something happens to us. We talk about. It's like, yo, okay, like it's
like we don't have them often either. I don't think.
well, most of the time we're drunk. I'm not gonna lie, because we just stay up. We have a couple drinks, or we're at the campfire, and it's just like a campfire talk where it's just, you know what? That's a lie. Matt DeMarco has been with conversations with us. Matt DeMarco has been there with conversations with us.
One thing I would just add too is that this podcast and these discussions and these protests and everything happened due to seeing a horrible video of George Floyd in Minnesota. But with a lot of other issues in life and, problematic scenarios or topics, we discuss these things either in school or with families. And like I've obviously talked to white people because my family is white about racism, and black people because black people are my friends. But, if that video didn't come out, would I be having this podcast conversation about racism?
Right.
Or be talking to my parents in my garage last week about racism and how I feel about the whole thing and what's justice and these great questions and discussions. And sometimes we have to remember that it's a shame almost to me that something like this has to happen for us to actually make change or to discuss change. Whereas this is an important topic that kind of just gets overlooked. And eventually, unfortunately, hopefully this doesn't happen, and I hope it proves me wrong, this will fade. This discussion the news will go on to something else. This happens with every major event in the world, but we have to remember how important this is to just sit down as friends and be comfortable and discuss it, because without it, we won't change anything.
So you were mentioning earlier, Jahrann, about how you feel like this time's a little different, or at least it looks a little different because of how widespread the conversation is, how long the conversation is going on. Do you see it as different? Like a two-part question. Do you see this moment in history as unique compared to a lot of the other ones that have happened in history where similar things have come up? And then maybe give us some thoughts on, like, what do you think the outcome of it in a positive direction is or could or should be if you've been able to process that?
So, I mean, different in the sense, like, in my lifetime, because, like, we were born same year as the Rodney King beatings and all that
91.
Stuff. So, we weren't, like, I haven't seen this much action ever on the race issue in my life. I don't know about.
Well, the reason being is because of social media.
Well, that
helps,
true
yeah,
too.
for sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, this is the most I've ever seen everyone kind of collecting and uniting to really take this one on. What was the other part of the question? It was very important.
Because it in our lifetime at least, it's the biggest. It seems like the biggest and most prolonged movement globally. And there's all sorts of factors that go into that, right? But that being said, we want solutions, right? Like, that's the whole goal of doing all this, is not just to do it. The whole goal of doing this is to see change. What do you suspect will be potential change that could come out of this, solutions that would come out of it, et cetera?
So, the other reason I think this is different is because this is probably the first time I've seen so many people talking about it and wanting to talk about it, of every different skin color, just like everyone's got something to say about it. Everyone's outraged. So for that reason, I think that's a good place to start. It's not just the talking about it that's doing the work. It's, I don't know, this is this exchange of ideas and kind of learning a little bit more. You change a little idea here, and then slowly we're all kind of getting closer to understanding one another. It takes time, but that's a great place to start, and I think that's why this seems so different to me. It's everyone's kind of collected on this.
Do you have thoughts, Cam?
Sorry.
Just the conversation about how it seems like something is happening here unique in our lifetime. We're hoping we don't hope it's just a thing. We hope that there's actual change. And what do you see that as potentially being coming out of this?
What do I see coming out of this? I don't know.
What do you hope for?
It's hard. What do I hope for? I don't know, to be honest with you. I hope for, like, yo, if this makes sense, love for everyone. Just, we're going through so much right now, and not even just the race, the pandemic. So just love, yo, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Just frig. I've had, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain. I don't know if you get it, but just people who look at you for one reason when you're not even that person. You know what I mean? I don't know. Just
They don't even give you a chance just because of your skin color. They don't get to know who
well,
you are
but
as
to
a person.
be honest with you, I do that with people too. Everyone judges people, and that's also, you know what I mean? That's also the problem too. So everyone needs to judge someone. I don't know why we all need to judge, but whatever.
Glad you said that, actually. that even you do it sometimes, too, because
You said that about me.
like you just said that.
I
You
judge
said
people
you
too.
do it sometimes,
Yeah.
too. Okay, so that's another important thing. And I think, like, I love Jordan Peterson as much as you do. And I love the way he talks about, like, I don't know how to solve the big problem of racism. I have no idea. But in my own personal life, what can I do? Like, how can we reevaluate it? It's like, that's a good place to start. It's like, take your own life, take some of your ideas, think them through, and maybe there's something you can do just in your own circle. You can control this part of the world. That's your life. And if we can all just do that part, I think the problem would ultimately be solved anyways. It's like, but to evaluate yourself and see, maybe I'm racist. Like, who's going to say that? Who's going to say that to themselves? Like, maybe I am racist. It'd be a hard
That's the
thing
funny
to
thing.
for
Yeah. A lot of
anybody
people
to
are doing
say.
the pointing of the fingers. But I don't know if any of them are saying
It's so quick to say,
you're definitely
the
a racist,
racism's
but
out there.
I don't know if
but
I am.
if you're willing to take a look, maybe
I
you'll
agree.
see there's a couple things going on inside. Like, me too.
Right.
I've had moments where, like, that was definitely racist what I just did or said. Like, not like it's anything bad, but just like when I looked at this guy, I assumed this, or you know what I mean? It's like we do that stuff too. So it's okay to say, maybe I'm racist. Maybe I've got maybe I learned it. I don't know where I learned it from, but and then own it, and then you can't solve a problem you don't accept, right?
Now, to keep going back to you about, in that vein, we had a conversation offline as well about what motivates you to do that. Like, what foundationally motivates you to look within and to see brokenness and do something different as a result of it? Like, and I'm saying this based on, like, if we're all naturalists and everything just is the way it is, and if I, as a white person, have privilege, right? Like, and I believe I do. I believe I am inherently racist because of my privilege, and I don't see certain things, and et cetera, et cetera. So I believe that about myself. What motivates me to look within and do something different? What motivates
As
you?
what motivates me?
What would motivate you to do something about it, right? Why would I give up privilege if I do have it? What would motivate me? And I guess I'm asking you, what motivates you to look within and really question yourself and do a self-audit? What's the motivation?
For me personally, it's the striving to the best at all. So, like, you and I are common in this area that Jesus is always our standard of what we should aim to be.
Right.
So the reflection process, to look at yourself and see where you're falling short, is an ongoing process. It's never going to end. And on this specific topic, that's no different when it comes to subconscious or conscious ideas of racism that may be existing. You're trying to be more like Jesus, so
Right.
you're certainly going to have to tackle any race problems that you may be experiencing.
For sure.
For someone who doesn't believe that, I think even just on a common ground, people are always striving to be better than, even if it's just better than who you were yesterday.
Right.
So nobody wants. I won't say nobody.
Yeah.
I will not say nobody.
Don't generalize.
Most people, I don't think they want, aside from being labeled racist, I don't think they want to be racist either. So,
And I don't think a lot of them want racism out there. It's just they don't know what it is. And then
It's-
when it
yeah,
hits them in the
that's-
face, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, and then that's what's crazy to me. There's a bunch of people who have not talked to a person of color, and they're gonna say no. Like, this is what it is. There's no racism out there, or this is how I feel. I mean, I stand for the George Floyd murder, but I do not stand for this. It's like, yo, have you talked to anyone? You know what I mean? Talk to people first before you come to a conclusion on anything. You know what I mean?
Shawn, let me ask you, as a white person who presumably has white privilege like me, we are systemically racist, we grow up in systemic racism, and we're the beneficiaries of it. What motivates you to do something different? What motivates you to self-audit? What motivates you to actually look within and be different if it means you potentially, and I don't think you're going to lose any of your privilege, but you potentially are giving opportunity or privilege, et cetera, up, right?
Yeah.
What would motivate you to do that?
So 3 things that I do every morning now. I meditate every morning now, and then there's 3 G's that I kind of live by. Give a little, which is like a small act of kindness. Grow a little, which is like learn something new or develop a skill or whatever. And practice gratitude. Cool. And all those 3 things can contribute just based on racism. So giving is a small act of kindness, helping someone in need or listening to them, being like a helping hand, whatever. Growing is obviously becoming more aware of the issue and trying to improve yourself as a person and, educating yourself and, taking the next steps, whether that be going to protest with all the other people of other races or, giving a platform for someone to have an opportunity to improve, or if you're in a position, it could be anything, giving a job opportunity, telling someone this is a good candidate, whatever. But it's about within, it's about growing and feeling better and knowing that you're helping towards making a better world to live in. And that's self-rewarding in itself.
Right.
Knowing that you can help others and you feel better and productive and stuff like that. So that's what motivates me. And also the fact that I want my friends and others to feel equal and to feel that love that Cam said. Right. And to think that that's not what's out there right now needs to be changed through listening, learning, and taking steps. But I do believe that what has happened, even in the 12 days or whatever since George Floyd's murder, there has already been some small progress in a matter of 12 days. If you look discussions, there's been protests all over the world. There's been money now allocated towards more black communities within, I believe, the city of Los Angeles and other communities. There's been discussions about police brutality, and I hope that it continues. But just in 12 days, I mean, there's already been significant change. So if we can keep this going and, hopefully there'll be drastic change.
That's good. That's good. I appreciate you sharing that. So Jahrann, to wrap up this conversation, Cameron and Jahrann, 2 black guys, you're talking to friends, they're 2 white guys. We honestly want to know, and I think it's helpful for the rest of the audience to know, what are maybe just one thing. What can I do differently that you understand? How could I live differently being a white guy with all the privilege that I have that you think would help? What would you want people to know? Be one thing they should do to help.
Well, yeah, that is a tough question. But again, I just have to defer to the self-audit. I think taking a good look at yourself, asking yourself some questions like, when I see people, do I stereotype? I had a system in place for how I wanted to put someone to the test on this. It's like, if you take a crime, so like this George Floyd situation, if you change the skin colors of people in this situation, do your emotions start changing? And that's a problem for me. If someone's skin color changes, you're less or more outraged, then we've got a real problem there. But no, definitely reflecting on yourself, take that time to ask those questions, have the conversations with people, whether colored people that you can have this with, or just even white friends, doesn't matter. Just have the conversation, talk about it, be open, honest, don't be afraid to speak and keep listening.
That's good.
Stop generalizing everybody. I was actually talking to one of my buddies. They said once we realize that we're all a little more alike each other, it puts it into more perspective. You know what I mean? So it's like, not all police officers are bad. Not all white people are racist. Not all black people are a certain whatever picture you have in your mind. You know what I mean? Shoot, I'm a father. You know what I mean? I work hard for my money. You know what I mean? I'm trying to raise a family. It's like, yo, look at the good things that people try to do instead of always like, oh my God, this guy looks like this. This is what he is. You know what I mean? And I do that too. Again, it goes back to judging, but stop generalizing. I guess I would go with that.
That's good. Well, man, I appreciate you guys having this conversation with me. I appreciate that we could do this as a group of friends and just be honest and open and authentic about it. And I do believe that this will help people who are listening. And I believe that we really did model what it looks like to be friends talking about a difficult subject. And this kind of conversation can happen about any subject. I think we need to be able to have these conversations about all the difficult stuff. And so I'm glad we could start here together. And my hope and my prayer is that this conversation continues from here with us, just as friends, so we can continue to learn and grow from one another. And then also it spurs on conversation amongst others who are listening and tuning in. Yeah. So thank you guys for joining me. This was a lot of fun. We'll probably go have some laughs and cringe a little bit after this. I guess maybe to close it off, be nice to us. Right? We were having a real honest conversation, and that's not easy to have around a difficult, touchy subject, right? Absolutely. And so be kind, be respectful, give people the benefit of the doubt, listen to their voices, let them speak, and just listen well to all sides of the conversation. And if you have something to say, go find a friend to say it to and have the conversation with them. All right? Thanks for joining us on the Young Man's Guide to Life podcast, and we'll see you guys in future weeks for future conversations.